Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give it a minute as everyone logs in and joins our webinar. So thank you for joining us today it's a rainy, cold day here in New York. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're welcoming you, and we're joining you from all over the tri-state and all the way up in Massachusetts, right, Phil?
That's correct. Yes. Where it's also cold and rainy.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We'll give it another minute while everyone continues to come into our room. I want to welcome everyone on behalf of the Columbia University School Professional Studies MS and Nonprofit Management Program. That's a mouthful. We'll just call ourselves Nonprofit Management for the rest. This is part of our program director, Dr. Basil Smikle's series of Lunch and Learns, where he invites leaders in the nonprofit space to connect with students, alum, faculty, and people in the sector, and just have important conversations about the work that we do. Um, we're really honored to have someone very special with us today. And to get things started, I'll hand it over to our program director, Dr. Basil Smikle. But before I do, I just want to let everyone know that today's session will be recorded. You can put any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and we will get to them as we are able. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll hand it over to Basil.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. We are really grateful to have you and Vicky involved in leading this program as well. It's a monthly event that we do, this Lunch and Learn, and the goal really is to introduce leaders in the nonprofit and philanthropy space, not just to our students and alum, but also to prospective students and just those that are interested in the work that we do both at the university and in the world. Given everything that that a nonprofits are experiencing right now, in particular, it's certainly a good opportunity to ask our leaders questions about how to move forward. So this is not just a conversation between me and one other or two other individuals. It's an opportunity to share best practices and honestly support one another. So we like to use this space to do that, and very thankful for your participation in the work that we do here. Before I go any further, we have a special guest on today, and that is our boss, Dr. Tiffany Hughes. She is the Associate Dean of Graduate Programs here at the Columbia University School of Professional Studies. There's some things that I want you to hear from her, particularly with respect to this specific guest today. But I'd love for you to give your attention to Dr. Hughes. Doctor.
Thank you, Basil. And I apologize in advance. I'm recovering from the flu right now, so I'm a little bit raspy. It's wonderful to see all of these attendees populating in this program today. I'm very, very excited to be here. The MS in Nonprofit Management program at SPS holds a special place in my heart because I'm really invested and passionate about the graduates that come out of this program, and to see that the work that they're doing in the field having direct impact on people in our community. So in my role, I oversee our 18 master's programs at the School of Professional Studies. But why this program's particularly important to me is because my son, almost exactly 2 years ago, was diagnosed with cancer at 10 months old. And this was while I was working at SPS. And I am a direct recipient to the good work that people do in the nonprofit sector. And not just Make-A-Wish, but so many other organizations have helped my child and my family over the past 2 years overcome our worst nightmare. I'm very lucky to know Phil, who has joined us today, because Phil and I were introduced about 6 months ago when we began my son's Make-A-Wish journey. And I'm really happy to share that my son was just granted his wish, and we will be going to Disney World in May to fulfill my son Logan's dream of meeting Mickey Mouse and seeing the Avengers at Universal. And that couldn't have been done without the great work of the team at Make-A-Wish, Metro New York and Western New York. And Phil was a key contributor to making my son's wish come true. And so that's how I am connected to this program today. That is how I am connected to the nonprofit sector and how the nonprofit sector directly impacts my family's well-being. And so without further ado, I'd love to introduce Phil Lussier. He's the CEO of Make-A-Wish Metro New York and Western New York. And Phil, we are just so thankful and so humbled that you are here today to join us. And so I'm going to pass it over to you and Basil
Mhm.
to continue the discussion.
Thank you so much. And Phil, it's great to have you join us for this month's Lunch and Learn. I am a big fan of um, of talk shows in particular, and I wanted to start at the begin at the beginning, as they say. So tell us where you're from and how you got started in this work.
Sure. Um, so I live in Milton, Massachusetts, which is right outside, several hundred yards from the Boston line. So basically, I live in Boston and have my whole life. And I have, my introduction to Make a Wish, like Tiffany's, is I'm a wish dad. And in September of 2001, my oldest son had his wish granted when he sang the national anthem at Fenway Park before a Red Sox game. So that was our family's experience with Make a Wish that exceeded every expectation that we had. And from that night, the CEO of the Massachusetts chapter was at the game, and I told her, if there's anything I can ever do to help, just let me know. And she took me up on that. So uh, I joined the Massachusetts Board of Make a Wish in 2003, and served on that board for 6 years. And when that term was up, I was introduced to the CEO of Make a Wish America, and I then served on the national board of Make a Wish for 6 years, and I was the national board chair for 2 years. And my career was in financial services. I was in financial services for many years and always in the for-profit world. And had my last corporate role, I was chairman and CEO of a joint venture between State Street and Citigroup. And we sold that just before I went on the national board, and had lots of time to spend on the national board, and was on committees and spent a lot of time. And when that time was winding down, I made a decision that I had one more thing left in me, and I wanted to do it in the not-for-profit world. And as it turned out, the longtime CEO in New York City was retiring. And
Mm.
they asked me if I was interested in looking at that. And I said, yeah, I'll look, but I'm not sure that's what I want to do. And 8 years later, here I am. So
Here you are.
yeah. So I think it's really interesting. And I guess one of the things, well, first of all, about Make a Wish, um, I have several things on that. We are a charity that relies on the generosity of people mainly. If you look at philanthropy in the United States, it's mainly individuals. And then obviously we have a lot of corporate sponsors, Disney being the largest relationship that we have. So Tiffany, I hope you enjoy yourself there. And I hope Logan enjoys himself there, more importantly. Um, and um, we grant wishes to children who have critical illnesses. I think one of the things that we've battled over the years is the belief that it's a last wish,
Mm.
that our recipients are actually going to pass away, and that just isn't true. 85% of wish kids go on to live long, successful lives, and be successful, and be healthy, more importantly. And so we have, as an organization structure, there are 58 chapters in the United States, and plus Make-A-Wish America, and it's a federated organization. So our chapter, the Metro and Western New York chapter, I report to a board of directors, and National has no say over the hiring and the operation of the local chapter. Now, they have lots of rules, and
Mm,
as they should. And so I would say what the national office does exceptionally well is manage the brand. Because
mm,
when I think about Make-A-Wish, we really have two assets. We have a gold-plated brand, and we have people. We have our people, both people
mm,
on our staffs, our boards, our volunteers, the people who are in the community who support us. So that's it. That's what we have. And the brand is without question um, one of the top ranked brands, not only in not for profit, but recognized and respected brands anywhere in the world. And so, I think as an organization, we've done a very good job in maintaining that brand. And if you look at any brand survey, typically what happens in a brand survey is
mm,
somebody else above you falls apart. Um,
mm,
and whether we want to talk about Enron historically,
mm,
20 years ago, um, or even some of the uh, challenges that have faced uh, universities over the last 12 months or so that have caused consternation. So I think as an organization, we're a federated model, which is a loose federation of people of organization. There are very specific guidelines that we have to follow relative to how wishes happen, what wishes are okay, all the medical eligibility for what
mm.
illnesses qualify for a wish are run by national, and we have a national medical advisory council that helps with that. And what's interesting, and this is really good news. 20 years ago, some diseases that qualified 20 years ago no longer
Oh,
qualify
wow. Mhm.
because they're 100% cured,
Right.
and or they've been eliminated. So that's good news. So I think um, as an organization, we're very thankful and for what our donors, and I look at our donors, I think of them as investors. They're investing
Mhm.
in our mission, and we have an obligation to manage our business as a business, and we have transparency. We have all of the fiduciary responsibility and care that a for-profit company has, and we owe it to people who trust us with their money to deliver on our mission at a very, very high level. And we endeavor to do that every day.
Well, you said so much, and there are a lot of questions that I have because
Perfect.
perhaps without you knowing it, a lot of what you said actually dovetails with some classes we teach. So for our prospective students, listening, these are the things that we do talk about in our coursework. But just to get a sense of your geography, as someone
Yep.
who is CEO of Metro New York and Western New York, what does that entail?
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a federated organization too.
Yeah.
So we serve the five boroughs and all of Long Island, and then we skip over Westchester, Albany, Syracuse, and we have the 17 counties that surround Rochester and Buffalo.
Oh, wow.
And that is an outcome of a federated model where if another chapter is a chapter is struggling and has struggled for years, National will intervene and suggest that that chapter merge with a chapter who has the resources to support the wish granting in those communities. And that's what happened with Western New York. They were struggling. This is probably 12, 13 years ago now.
Mhm.
Um, and they merged with our chapter. So in some ways, it's a little bit of a patchwork quilt. and there's a few of those around the country that are like that. Ideally, there would be a contiguous chapter that would merge, but
Mhm.
that's just the reality of how things go from time to time.
Right. Now, I'm going back to a point you made earlier about um, being asked to be on the board, and you were on the board locally there in Massachusetts and then
Uh-huh.
nationally. How much of your uh, finance background did you bring to the board work, if any?
Oh, I think about my own board and the expertise and the experience that a diverse set of people bring
Mhm.
to helping us think through the challenges that we have in our business. So, I think managing people,
Mhm.
understanding the need to drive revenue,
Mhm.
which is fundraising in our world, and how do we meet the needs and, quite frankly, serve the strategic plan. I think um, from a business background, the strategic plan drives everything. And we redid our strategic plan right after the pandemic, and we actually our 3-year plan had expired at the beginning of the pandemic, and we said there's really no reason to try to do a strategic plan now because we have no idea what this looks like
That's good.
and when it will look like. So um, it wasn't until well, in 2022, we started the strategic planning process, and then in 2023, rolled out what is now a rolling 3-year strategic plan. So it's gonna be evergreen. Um, and what's the value of the strategic plan is what you don't do. And because you set out for what you're trying to accomplish and what you need to do to accomplish that. And from time to time, businesses can get enamored with the shiny new penny. And you want not all those are distractions. It's also, in the not-for-profit world, we have fewer resources than for-profit companies have.
Mhm.
And so when we think about what we're going to invest in, we have to have some certainty of success, or more certainty than a for-profit company would have. And we want to make good strategic decisions and good strategic use of the resources that we have, because while we want to serve the mission today, it's about what are we doing for tomorrow, and how are we sustainable, how do we continue to grow the business, how can we grant more wishes. And that's really the what I think about with the strategic plan. And also all of that, going back to your question, uh my business experience informs that. And I've been fortunate to serve on boards at both the local level, the national level, and the board that we have for our chapter today, of
Mm.
very strong, savvy business leaders who can contribute to what we need to accomplish.
And I'm curious, do you feel that there is any pushback from maybe some of the nonprofit stakeholders to more of a business strategy, or any kind of rubric or metrics from the business world coming into the nonprofit world?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I talk about ROI all the time.
yeah,
If we're going to endeavor to do something, what's the return? How does it serve our strategic plan? How does it feed growth? And obviously, there are things you just have to do.
yeah.
I think the discipline of understanding, you know, what the ROI is, and we have metrics that are very specific to the not-for-profit world.
Right.
Cost of a dollar raised, wishes per FTE. So we look at those things, and we are data driven, um, to look at how we can be more efficient and more productive.
Mm. And talk a little bit about your day to day. How many
Ah,
people do you manage?
yep.
And how often do you personally, or does your team sort of go out and engage your stakeholders? How regular communication is that, and how?
Okay, those are two different things.
They are. They
What I
are.
do in my day and how often we engage. So
Yeah.
we engage every day.
Yeah.
So in some way, shape, or form. So we manage. We have 62 employees in our New York City office. We have an office in Melville on Long Island.
Hmm.
We have an office in Rochester, an office in Buffalo, and the total is 62 people. And I have 5 direct reports, and I spend my day uh, helping them do what they need to do to be successful. And I think the key to a successful bit, in my perspective, and leadership, in my perspective, is
Hmm.
to align the organization around a common goal and a culture. And I think we've been very successful in doing that. That we are very collaborative. Everything is about team, and it is clear what our mission is. It's our mission to grant wishes to children with critical illnesses, and our vision as an organization is to reach every eligible child, and that's aspirational, which it should be. Um, and my day is working to achieve both of those. How do we grant the wishes that we have today, and how do we look to grant every possible wish we can in the future? Um, and you know, when the organization is aligned, and my job is really easy. I have
Hmm.
my I can honestly say that uh, if I wasn't there, it would still run like clockwork. And
Hmm.
that's really the what you want to accomplish as a leader of
Right.
an organization.
Right. And how do you, I imagine that you get a lot of requests to make a wish. How does your team, day to day, sort of sift through all of that and make these tough decisions? Because I imagine they're very tough emotional decisions
You mean on the wishes that
on the
come through?
wishes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say the process of what qualifies for a wish is pretty well prescribed. And so we get um, if we get 100 referrals, and you can get a referral from a medical community, which
Mm.
is the major hospitals, pediatric oncology, obviously, the major hospitals in the city on Long Island and upstate is where the majority of our referrals come from. Then we can get referrals from wish parents and family members, and then as in Tiffany's case, we can get a referral from someone in the community who we know and respect dearly. And so, with that, with every 100 wishes, 70 are qualified. So
Mm.
we do have wishes that don't qualify. And there are times, and typically when they're referred from a medical provider, they understand why it doesn't qualify. So when it's referred by a family member or a parent, they don't they that requires a little bit of uh, expectation management and
Mm.
explaining as to,
Mm.
here's what our guidelines are, and this is why your child um, doesn't qualify. So for example, we get referrals for children with autism, and
Mm.
autism does not apply. Um,
Mm.
so, and that can be a challenging situation.
Right.
Um, it's a life altering condition without question, but it isn't a critical illness. Um,
And by the way, let me just take a moment here to say that we are able to take questions from our audience. There is a Q&A um, button down below. Feel free to send us a question. I'll be managing them from here. We do have a question from Dinesh. How do you manage, how do you engage in risk management in your organization? Do you have a dedicated staff for that purpose?
uh, so we certainly look at risk and the risk management falls in a couple of areas. One,
Mhm.
obviously, is the financial risk.
Mhm.
And I have a CFO who reports to me and a financial team, and we comply. And we just had our external audit by our auditors and had a clean audit. And from a board perspective, taking care of the money is a very important function,
Right.
and we do that exceptionally well. So that's obviously a big risk, because we've seen situations in the not-for-profit world where there's been financial improprieties, and talk about brand damaging. That's a killer.
Yeah.
The other risk that we have is the brand risk. And again, as I said, the national organization has lots of rules about what a chapter can and cannot do, what they can engage in, how they engage, who we can engage with. So that's another layer of risk management, and my brand and communications team is well aware of that.
Mm.
And we have you have the risk all the time of I mentioned that there are children that don't qualify, and
Right.
we have the expanded risk now with what social media can be, of somebody who doesn't like a decision that we make, can very easily reach an awful lot of people very, very quickly,
Yeah.
with their perspective on what we did or didn't do. So that's a risk we manage every day as well. We have our brand and social media team keeps an eye out for anything that gets posted about us anywhere on any of the social media platforms.
Is that team internal, or do you contract out for that?
Oh no, that's internal. They
Yeah.
they they report they report into me ultimately.
All
Yeah.
right.
And
You made a
National has a
comment.
team
Yeah.
too.
And
Yeah.
nationalize the team. And you made a comment before, which I wanted to get back to in terms of battling beliefs,
Yep.
of potential, of whether this is the last wish, and trying to battle
Yep.
that back. Which I thought about as you were talking about social media, because I wonder, as you mentioned risk. I mean, how much do you invest in social media, and does the national sort of give you help with that, or are you sort of on your own, understanding that you have to fit within a brand umbrella, but do you
Yeah.
have a lot of autonomy to kind of engage on social media?
Ish. uh, so as I said, National really controls the brand. So there are really strong guidelines around that. I think one of the things to explain about Make-A-Wish too, with those 58 chapters, we're all on the same technology. So
Mhm,
there is a central donor care database,
mhm,
Salesforce database that every chapter is on. Uh, our Wish and Volunteer app technology is all on Salesforce as well, and every chapter uses the same system. And our financial systems are all the same. So
mm,
we're all on NetSuite. So from a risk management perspective, that's obviously tightly controlled. Relative to social media, um, we're all on the same platforms,
mhm,
and distribute out through, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, X,
mm,
Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, pick one. Um, and so we have latitude in what we can share locally for wish stories. We have, and there are guidelines on what's okay and what isn't.
mm,
And one of those things is that in order to post a story about a wish on social media, it has to be approved by the family.
mm,
So families have to be what we call PR approved. So they agree that we can share their pictures, we can share, and there's some very cool wishes that we share on social media. And if a family says no, we don't want to be part of that, then they're not part of that.
mm,
So that part of the risk management is pretty heavy with lots of cooperation between us and the national office on what goes, and then with national corporate partners like Disney, national will say, we're going to do a post thanking Disney on Tuesday, so you should repost it and you don't need to do anything on your own on Tuesday. So there is a social media calendar with national, and we have a social media
Mm,
calendar with the chapter. So,
okay.
yep. So
We've
it's managed tightly.
uh, we've got some great questions coming into the Q&A. The first one, I love this one from Trevor. How do you measure joy as a KPI or as a measure of
Wow.
impact? Aside from joy, what are your other KPIs and or measures of
Well, so yeah, joy is a tough one to measure, Trevor.
impact? Yeah.
I can tell you that, it's an interesting question because you think about customer satisfaction, right? So we do post-wish surveys with families, and we have a 98.5% highly satisfied rate. Um, and so the key is, what do we learn from the 1.5%?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
you know, I I think what's interesting, and the medical community weighs in more on this than we can, relative to the impact of a wish. And um, our referring doctors believe that the wish is so important in the treatment cycle that it gives a child something to look forward to and gives hope. And hope's a really big part of medicine, and
yeah,
believing it's going to be okay on the other end. And so our doctors talk a lot about, we have a doctor who's a brain surgeon, and he talks a lot about, I can fix the brain, but I can't fix the spirit, and Make-A-Wish fix the
mhm,
spirit. And
mhm,
and so I think that's really where it gets compelling relative to KPIs. Um, we don't have KPIs that measure the intangibles, and joy is tough to measure, but we certainly do measure the satisfaction with the wish. We love the stories about, so many parents will tell us, this is the first time I've seen my child smiling for a week in 2 years. So
mhm.
I think that's the gratitude that we get.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Scout, who's a student of mine, hey Scout, Scout asked a sort of related question about measuring long-term impact on a wish, but with both recipients and the family. So yeah, and how I'm sure you have a lot of families that stay engaged with you for a long period of time.
Yeah. So we actually have a part of those 62 people. We have two people who are Wish alumni folks.
Mm,
So
mhm,
they do the Wish survey follow up, and we engage with families if they want to engage. Many families are still in treatment protocols, or just at a place in their life where they don't want to engage. But in my own family, I had a brother-in-law who became a wish granting volunteer. My
mm,
daughter became a wish granting volunteer. So, I think as we look at how do we offer families the opportunities to engage however they want to engage, which can be volunteering. They speak at events. We had two Wish alums, both college students who were the MCs of our gala in New York City a couple of years ago. And it was fabulous. Um,
mm,
and, we have people on our board we have a Wish brother, we have a Wish alum, and we have a Wish mom on our board. So, obviously there's the engagement, and also ultimately opportunities for fundraising, and whether that's fundraising directly, or whether that's something that gets done at the school, something that gets done around the anniversary of the wish. So, we
mm,
we we try to engage with families is however they want to continue to stay engaged with us. And we have some wish alums, like we have a wish alum on our board, and she's in her late 40s, so she's had a wish early on in the Make-A-Wish history. And there are wish kids who are wish kids who are now in their 40s and
mm.
50s that continue to stay engaged in the organization.
That's great. You mentioned fundraising, so you have an annual gala, is that
We
right?
do.
Or
We
you
do.
do? And what kind of fundraising activity do you do throughout the year outside of the gala, if any?
Oh, we do tons.
Yeah.
The gala events are just one component. And as I
Mm,
said earlier, the real opportunity for fundraising is with individuals.
Right.
That's where the vast majority of philanthropy in the United States comes from. So we we have a development team that we have a major gift effort. We have an annual gift effort, which is people that give up to $5,000 a year, and we steward those donors, and we send them emails, and we send them wish videos, and we have a corporate team that works with the corporate sponsors both locally and nationally. We have an event team, and we have a community team that works with all the various community events that happen,
Mhm.
where somebody in the community is having an event that supports Make a Wish. So
Mhm.
we've got a big uh, fundraising team, not big compared
Mhm.
to Columbia, but big for us.
Now, do you get any direct financial support from corporate, or you kind of stand alone in that way?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. We get support from corporations in the city.
No, I
Yeah,
mean corporate. I mean your corporate, Make a Wish corporate. Yeah, I know you're a
s-
federation, so
yeah. So
how does
so
that work?
the way that works on like a national sponsor, um, there's money gets distributed locally. Somebody will
Mhm.
run a campaign, a roundup campaign and the money goes back to the zip code that the money originated from.
Mhm.
So yes, so there's lots of rules around that as well.
I'm sure. Still a lot of great questions coming in the Q&A section. Valeria
Perfect.
asks, Make-A-Wish has an incredible impact worldwide for NGOs that are in their early stages. What is the most important lesson you've learned about building a sustainable and impactful organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. It goes back to people,
Mhm.
for sure, and also having uh, right-sized your expectations. Um, I think there can be mission creep in
Mhm.
organizations where let's do this, but oh, we can do this too, and then we can do this too, and you've now diluted the original uh, mission potentially. And sometimes adding mission creep isn't necessarily a bad thing, although it
Mhm.
has a negative connotation. I mean, businesses expand what they do, right? But I think as as you think about any NGO, it's what do they do, who do they serve, and then ultimately who funds that, and
Mhm.
who does it appeal to fund it, which is
Right.
what we do every day of who are likely prospects for us that would be have an affinity to give to children's health organizations.
Right. Karina asks, looking back on your time at Make a Wish, is there a particular wish that deeply impacted you personally, one that changed the way you see the power of a wish? And how did that experience shape the way you approach your work today? And I know you had personal stake in it.
Yeah.
And is there was it that, or is there something outside of that that you could speak to?
No, I think I've seen an awful lot of wishes
Mm,
that have had an impact. I think the real compelling story of the wishes that resonate is why was that the wish? You know,
mm,
and it's really we had a person a young man. He's in his 30s now, wish alum, who spoke at our galas, all three in Buffalo, Rochester, and New York. And his story was really incredible. So um, his wish was to meet Catwoman. He didn't have any
wait,
idea
which
what.
one?
Well,
Which one?
Halle Berry,
Oh, okay, all right.
and he had no idea who she was. He just wanted to meet Catwoman. So he and his family went to um, Santa Monica, and they closed the Santa Monica Pier for his wish. So he and
Mm,
his family had the Santa Monica Pier to ride all the rides and all that with her for the day. Um, and at the end of the wish, he wrote him a note and wrote KIT. And he said, "What's this?" And he says, "Oh, that's keep in touch." He says, "No, what's this?" "Oh, that's my email. Send me an email." And he was
mm,
probably 12 or 13. And he said, I don't know what an email is. And she says, you don't have an email? No, I don't have an email. She says, do you have a computer? Oh God, no, we don't have a computer.
Mm.
Um, and uh, so she said, oh, okay. Well, he gets home from the trip and gets delivered a computer and a printer from Halle
Oh
Berry.
wow. Oh wow.
So he then gets on the computer and figures he's really savvy on a computer.
Mm.
And now they didn't have a modem or dial up in his home, so
Right.
he would go to McDonald's and work on his computer with Wi-Fi. And then through what he was able to accomplish, he was got a full scholarship to high school at a private high school in Buffalo, and from there got a full scholarship to attend Columbia University.
Oh God.
So that's an
That's amazing.
impact. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, that's a fantastic story. Just for all of our viewers slash listeners, I was very specific. I had to be very specific on the Catwoman question because I am a massive Batman fan. So we're talking anywhere from Lee Merriweather and Julie Newmar all the way up
Yep.
to Zoe Kravitz and Anne Hathaway. So I just had to put that out there. Wonderful. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I got to today is on your on staffing. What do you look for when you're looking for staff? And obviously this is going to differ depending on the level, but is there a common thread that you look for when you're hiring staff?
Yeah, definitely. You want enthusiastic people. You want people who are energy givers, not energy takers.
Mm.
And
What's an
you know,
energy
we
taker? Tell me how do you define an
yeah,
energy taker?
yeah, there are people that just take the energy right out of a room, you know. So
Yeah.
uh and we don't get we don't get many of those that
Yeah.
applying to Make a Wish.
Mm.
But on the flip side of that, we have people who will come in, and I call it the pixie dust effect. They
Mm.
they just want to be at Make a Wish because of all the wonderful things we do, but I don't know if they're prepared to really do the job that it takes. Um, and that's another thing we look out for is that, oh, I just love everything Make a Wish. It's so cute. Um, but we're a business, and
Mm.
it's both that has to be there. We're a business with a heart for sure. Um, but I think clearly there's just the competencies, the skills, the communication skills are very important in virtually every job. Because if you're talking with parents, you're in a challenging situation
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and very challenging sometimes. If we're communicating with stakeholders, that's critical how we do that. So, I think there's skill set, there's competencies. We do get a lot of we hire a lot of the interns that work with us that have come on, and some have been there, started as interns, and been with us for 10 years. So,
Mm.
I think that's one of the things we've tried to do. With 60 employees, it's not easy, but how can we offer career path opportunities for
Mm.
people? And someone who starts their first job out of college, in many ways, that first job is figuring out what you don't want to do.
It's true.
Um,
It's
and
true.
and and so you get in and you say, well, I really like the company, but I don't like what I'm doing. Could I move over to this role? And you'd say, okay, you did that and you did some of that in college. Sure, we have an opening there. Let's do that.
Are there any strategies? I was just struck by something you just said because I'm thinking about what strategies you might use to try to give people, particularly within a small organization, a sense that there is a career path, either within your organization or being mindful of giving them skill sets that you're okay with them taking out of your organization and going
Oh,
elsewhere.
I'm always okay with that.
Yeah.
And I would encourage someone who
Yeah.
is kind of capped out in our organization and has significant potential to
Hmm.
go take those skills somewhere else and build on those skills. So um, at the end of the day, if you're not committed to the growth of your people,
Mm.
um, that comes across culturally. And well, you hate to lose good people. Um, it's really very evident when a high potential person has reached a cap because the person over them is going nowhere. Um, and we've had people leave and come back.
Mm.
So, I think, that's the developing people and giving people professional development opportunities is really important to us, to our chapter. And if people take those skills somewhere else, I hope they're really successful.
And you, I imagine, foster a tremendous amount of collaboration
Mhm.
across your organization, and employees are encouraged to do that. I
Yep.
have to imagine, yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, so we actually collaboration is one of the key parts of our strategic plan. And we have every 2 weeks, we have an all staff collaboration meeting. And every any person or any department can bring, this is what I need. And then everyone around the table. So for example, someone may say, um, I have a wish child coming to New York from San Francisco, and they want to do some unique things in New York, and they mentioned X, Y, or Z. And someone on the development team may say, "Oh, I know someone on our junior board who does X, Y, and Z. Let me call them, and we can coordinate that as part of the wish." So it's and the social media team will say, um, next week is pediatric oncology week. And we need who has some stories about that. So,
Hmm.
it's going around and collaborating. And we have a motto that we are all wish granters, we're all storytellers, and we're all fundraisers. And we grant a wish, which enables us to tell a story to the marketplace, to our stakeholders, to our donors, uh, that enables us to raise the next dollar, which enables us to grant the next wish. And that is an endless
Yeah.
cycle.
Mm. Now, you talked a lot about your development operation, your social media, and the
Mhm.
branding. We had a hosted a town hall for nonprofits about over a month ago. Could you talk a little bit about post election? But so, can you talk a little bit about the government affairs functions that you may undertake? What's your relationship like with elected officials? How do you navigate administration transitions, whether they be local all the way up to president?
We try to be agnostic.
Yeah,
So we have relationships with the borough presidents, for example.
yeah, right.
And one of the reasons, one of the key reasons for that was, uh, we serve a well, the most diverse city in the country,
Hmm.
and we have needs for volunteers who match up with the diversity of children that we serve. So, and I'll circle back to government because this is relevant. So we have relationships, and we look for how we can connect to donors in all. We Last year we granted wishes in 28 different primary languages. So
Hmm.
we have a real commitment to DEI. Now, so now you ask about politics, and clearly there's some red flags with the executive orders that have come out of the new administration and around DEI, and clearly the number of for-profit companies that have abandoned DEI, um, and I have to think it's only out of fear politically,
Hmm.
um, and including the big tech companies. Um, so I think for us, our business is about DEI, who we
Hmm.
serve. I mean,
Hmm.
it's we serve children regardless of any of their race, color, creed. So, and in order to do that effectively, we have to have the ability to serve them efficiently. So DEI matters to us. So what I would say about that from a government perspective is, well, given the current climate, how much do we want to tout that?
Hmm.
Because what we don't want to do is then have someone on social media go into a rant about what we do. So that's an area where politics matters to us.
Yeah.
Now we don't take any government funding,
Mm.
so when everything froze for a day or two, that did not affect us. Um, and then the other kind of key issue for us that really matters to the families that we serve is immigration. Um,
Mm.
we know that undocumented families get wishes. Um, we know that there are families where one of the parents is a citizen and the other may have a deportation order. And so, it matters to us how we serve those families. So, yeah,
Understood.
I think there are. Uh, I can't recall another time when there's been the kind of tsunami of activity that we have to pay
Hmm.
attention to
Hmm.
politically.
Hmm.
But but anyway, so we
Yeah.
certainly are well aware of it.
Yeah. Understood. We have just a couple minutes left. If there's anybody that has a question, please put in the chat. Otherwise, I will ask one question that I've been meaning to ask. You represent the five boroughs, Long Island, Western New York. How does that feel as person clearly judging from the banners on the
Oh
wall?
yeah, yeah, I'm a
Um,
Boston sports fan. Yeah,
a diehard Boston New Englander. Like, how
yeah.
does that feel? Do you avoid conversations? How does that work?
Oh no, I didn't avoid conversations. So I went. Obviously, the Yankees are an incredible wish
Uh,
granting organization and
yeah,
supporter of Make a Wish.
yeah.
And I went to meet with the head of community relations at the Yankees early on in my tenure, and I sat down and started talking. He said, "Just stop." He said, "You're a Red Sox fan." And he said, "I've had the best days of my life and the worst days of my life in Fenway Park."
That's
Uh,
right.
so we laughed about it. But I said to him, I said, "I've always respected the Yankees. I'm not a Yankee hater." Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the sports rivalries have been a lot of fun to talk about with people.
yeah.
I have been reminded several times that the New York Giants beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. I have heard
That,
that
yeah.
mentioned. Uh,
Well, I used to think the most polarizing thing I could say was that I was a Cowboys fan, and it may still be as a born and raised New Yorker. But Phil, I really appreciate your time. If there's one thing that you could leave our students, but also more importantly, our prospective students, folks that are looking to get into this work, going to school to look for some formal training, what could you leave us? What could you leave them in particular with words of
well,
wisdom?
I think the opportunity that you afford students is outstanding. And we have, the head of our major gift and corporate philanthropy is a graduate of your program, and she had an unbelievable experience. And so, I think, like anything, experience matters, and where you get experience in education, the people you meet, meeting different people. And I think a program like you have at Columbia is really outstanding and affords your students an opportunity in a city that affords a lot of opportunity to have exposure to so many different parts of the not-for-profit world, but also the world in general. So, I think um, I if you want to be in the not-for-profit business, if that's where you want to be, then like people who want to be going down a business track, get an MBA, it's
Mhm.
the same uh, opportunity and career accelerator as an MBA is.
All right. Phil Lussier, CEO, President CEO, Make-A-Wish Metro and Western New York. We really appreciate your time and your wisdom and guidance. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Been great to be
Right.
with you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And for all our students, thank you for participating. Alum and alum, thank you for just always connecting and staying in touch with us, as we will promise to do with you. Prospective students that are listening or audience members who weren't thinking about this program, I advise you to look really hard at the work that we do and the people that we can bring in to talk to you and give you guidance. We always try to share best practices with the best people. So thank you all very much for participating, and we'll see you again in another
Thank you
month.
so much. We'll be sharing a recording, everyone.